Welcome back everyone to another video of World of Warships Legends, and today we're going to be talking about ranked and seeing that beautiful animation that lets you know you finally reached rank 1. And in the background here we do have some gameplay of one of the games I had in League 1, that is the top league. This season they did decide to do things a little bit differently. So they divided all the ranks up into 3 different leagues. League 3, which are ranks 11 through 8, Tier 3 ships. League 2, which are ranks 7 through 4, and those are going to be Tier 4 ships. And League 1, which are ranks 3 to 2, and that is going to be Tier 5 ships. Now, I want to kind of break it down what it's like for a solo player. I did mine 100% solo, and I just want to share kind of the insight and what I saw from the different games. So starting with League 3 and the Tier 3 ships. For me, it was important to dictate the terms of the battles. In other words, I wanted to be spotted last out of all the teams. I wanted to make sure I knew where the closest enemy ship was, and I wanted to make sure that I could outspot them. So for me, that meant I was going to be taking a destroyer, and it had to be a destroyer that had low detectability with twist and track as one of the commander perks. So for me, I went with the G101. That is a premium ship. The equivalent would be the V170 if you want to go for the tech tree. And then use an Eric Bay as my commander. And the thought behind this is that basically then I would always know the direction of the closest enemy ship. If it was a destroyer, I would be able to push in towards them and most likely be able to spot them before they spot me. The G101 does have fairly low detectability, but more importantly than that, the torpedoes have fabulous reload time, and you get some of those kind of cheater torpedoes that shoot out the front. And then the guns are nothing to be overlooked either. They have a 3.7 second reload time, and they can absolutely blast any ship out of the water. Basically with this ship, once you are able to take care of the enemy destroyer, or if your other team does, if they happen to get spawned at a different cap, then the only job you have to do is to remain unspotted and continue grabbing caps. And honestly, I think that's the biggest key to victory, is making sure that you're surviving longer than the enemy's destroyer. Looking into League 2, this is the Tier 4s. Now this one, I did switch from a destroyer to a cruiser. And that's mainly because I was able to equip the cruiser with twist and track. That is the key here. You know, when it gets late into the game and all the other ships are dead, but I'm still being outspotted by the enemy destroyer if they're alive, I need to know what direction they are. I need to know if they're going to be torpedoes coming in, which direction they're going to be coming from. But more importantly, I want to be able to have the firepower to take on a battleship if I need to, take on enemy cruisers, or to take on any destroyers. So for me, I use the Marblehead for the most part, and I did have Beepley as my commander for this. I messed with her inspirations a little bit from my gunboat build, for those of you guys that watched that video, and I basically put Scott and Kuznetsov as her inspirations in order to maximize her ability to go out and shoot battleships from a long ways. But then she also had the Ingenious, or the Ingenious equivalent, which shows how many ships are aiming at you at any given time. And honestly, I think that's just very, very important information to have, and allows you just to know what the enemy is doing at all times in terms to your movements. For the most part, the Marblehead was my bread and butter for League 2 and all the Tier 4 games. I did have a couple of games, though, where I was using the Königsberg. That thing is an absolute terror for other cruisers at that tier, and I do like the extended sonar spotting capability. Ultimately, though, what happened is when I got into an end game with the Königsberg and there was still an enemy destroyer alive, it was too difficult for me to be able to spot them or know where they were going. So that just led me back to the Marblehead that always had that twist and track skill that allowed me to go ahead and continue chasing the ships down rather than wandering around aimlessly hoping that I spot them. Now, moving up into Tier 1. This one is the most difficult. Tier 5 ships is really where you start getting a very large discrepancy in the ships. You know, you get your first cruiser that's has radar on it. You have the destroyers and the German and British destroyers that have sonar on them. So things really start changing when you get up to this tier. For me, there was only one ship that I chose. You know, the wait times were a little bit longer waiting for destroyers, but it was key to me that I dictated the terms of the battle. And destroyer is by far the most important class in League One. So I went with the T-61. The T-61 with Eric Bay as my primary commander. And I have inspirations of Swirsky and Sims. Swirsky gives me that lower detectability, so I can get down to 5.1 kilometers. And then Sims gives me just a little bit more health to play with, which is kind of key in these gun battles. You know, if I come up against another T-61, I want to make sure that I have some type of advantage, and typically that's through my inspiration of Sims. If you wanted to look at the tech tree ship, for me I did the Gaiety or Fubuki. The Fubuki only works because I do have Helsinger as a commander. He does have twist and track. He's basically Tanaka with twist and track. So that allows me a little bit of variance there. I can play more of a torp boat style, kind of be more of hunting. But then again, if I come up against a British or German destroyer that has that sonar and are able to push in on my smoke and spot me with the sonar, that's a huge liability. So I only played maybe 3 or 4 games in the Fubuki before I just switched back to the T-61. Now, when it comes to the different roles that the destroyer has to do, it's fairly simple in my opinion. So basically, the destroyer number 1, they need to get into the nearest cap and basically start accumulating points for the friendly team. That's job number 1. You want to make sure that you can at least begin to get those points rolling in. Once you get that cap, then you have a couple of different scenarios you need to play through. If it is a 3 cap map, then you want to go immediately and contest or capture the second capture point. Basically, that's going to give you a huge advantage if you're able to cap that second point. Basically, you're just playing defense at that point. You don't need to capture the third point. There's no need to be aggressive and take unnecessary risks in ranked. You want to just play consistent, smart ships play. So this map that you can see in the background here, this was a 2-map setup. So we went ahead, we captured A. We were able to kill the Fubuki fairly early thanks to a bunch of helpful fire from our teammates. But now we want to go ahead and get the second cap, or at the very least contest it. Now you can see at this point it's myself versus 2 cruisers, and I just need to make sure that I'm keeping myself out of their sonar range, especially with that Graf speed. It has some very solid sonar, so I need to make sure I keep plenty of distance. But as you can see, Twist and Track's telling me that the nearest ship is the one out here in the smoke. So at this point, after we get the second capture point, we got to decide what's next. And honestly, it's survive. I want to make sure that I continue to survive throughout the rest of this game in order to guarantee the win. Well, my team has the lead on points, so I don't need both of these capture points. If I need to, I can go ahead, I can concede the B point, retreat, and then go ahead and just make sure that I'm defending the A point. Basically, don't make any super aggressive moves unless you absolutely have to. You want to make sure you're playing it safe, playing smart and consistent. So right here, I didn't need to pop my spoke screen, but I thought there might be a chance that the Leander would pop around that island and be able to spot me for a second. If I even got spotted for 10 seconds, it could be enough for those 2 ships to destroy me. So I just need to make sure that I remain unspotted and I keep both of them at least decently spotted, so that way I know where they are and where they're moving. So as you see right there, they did finish the B cap, but we still have a over 100 point lead. And now all I have to do is I have to make sure that I keep them from capturing A, or at least from getting into A. If they get into A, they will have the ability to stop my point accrual, which would most likely mean I'm going to lose the game. So at this point, I don't need to worry about being aggressive. I could probably flip around, get my guns on Leander, and take them out before they killed me. But it would be an unnecessary risk. And honestly, I think that's the biggest thing that the players struggle with is avoiding unnecessary risks and trying to remain patient. There's a lot of impatience in the game that kind of causes players to make mistakes. And you just want to be the more patient player that sits back and makes the smart play. It might seem boring at certain times, but overall it's going to lead to a higher win rate, and you're really going to be helping out your teammates quite a lot. So that's what I have for ranked. I think this is a fun game type. It's different. It's very campaign style in that you're basically just trying to move forward continuously with some risk of moving backwards. But with the irrevocable ranks, you do have a stop there in certain places. If you do everything absolutely perfect, it's going to take 32 wins to get to rank 1. Very, very few players will do that perfectly. Most likely the players that do are going to be in a division. If you do have the ability to run division, I think that is a huge advantage. Make sure you pull your buddy in and go ahead and go wreck some guys. I think it's a lot of fun doing it that way, but it is a challenge doing it solo, and a fun one at that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you like to rank, dislike it? What changes would you like to see in the future? If you have any questions, concerns, also leave those down below. If this is your first time coming to the channel, consider hitting subscribe. We'll have a lot more videos coming at you shortly. Have yourself a great day.